Time is a precious commodity. People use it for all sorts of things. Some use it for work and other responsibilities. Me? I'm going to use time to talk to some really awesome people. I'm Sergio Barrera, and this is A Few Minutes With. Good evening and welcome everyone to this week's episode of A Few Minutes With. I'm Sergio Barrera, and it's time once again to hang out, chat, have some fun, talk about whatever the heck comes into our brains. Joining me, as always, is the lovely Susan Bruiser Chisholm. Susan, good evening and happy Thursday.
Good evening. Happy Thursday. Okay, my boss signed an email today. Happy Friday, Junior. When I'm done.
Friday Junior? Wow.
Friday Junior. So I'm going to
Friday
adopt that.
Junior.
I was like,
I like that.
I've never heard it referred to as that before, so here it is.
Well, golly gee, I like the sound of that. So we are starting already to get some folks into the chat. So I want to say hello to those who are joining us. Rihanna is with us, Raina126, Captain Sparkle Pants, and One Punch Dough. Welcome, as we prepare to have yet another evening together discussing all kinds of stuff. I want to start, Susan, first of all, by taking a moment to share a little bit of news and to say thank you to someone. As you know, when we started this project, we were joined by George Alvarado, simply George1234. You can find him on Twitter and Instagram. And George recently made the decision to go ahead and move on to other projects and other things. So I wanted to take some time tonight to thank him for the work that he did with us here on A Few Minutes With, and for actually inspiring me to relaunch the show. And so we'll miss having him on, but wanted to take a moment to say thanks. It's been a lot of fun working with him on different projects.
Yeah, he's a sweet kid. So
kid.
He's like a year and a half younger than me. I don't know.
It was going so well.
I wish the best to George. He's a really cool person. So
yeah, absolutely. So we thank him for the time he spent with us here on the show and in other projects, because again, he also worked with us on the food show, Taste of the Food Life. And so a big thank you to George, and just be on the lookout. You can follow him again at simply George1234 on Twitter and Instagram, and you can go and say hello for us. But yeah, definitely we'll miss him. The Drew is in the audience as well. Welcome, Drew. Thank you for joining this evening, as the gang of regulars has started to arrive. So, but yeah, how's your week been, Susan? You've had some interesting things going on in your job.
Yeah, it's been an interesting week. I started at a new specialty this week, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Today I think the strangest thing so far this week is, I had a migraine on Monday. Anyway, I had a migraine, and then today we had a patient who was contagious. We had to wear isolation precautions. Suits. It was kind of strange.
Yeah, I imagine so.
But safety of everyone.
Absolutely, continuing to do the good work that you do. So for myself, I worked my first overnight shift in a long time. It's been decades since I've had to work overnight, but had an opportunity to support some colleagues, and decided to volunteer. And so I'm operating on only a few hours of sleep since yesterday, but here we are and ready to have some fun. So we are also joined by our friend Red Death. Thank you so much, Red, for showing up and joining us. The gang is gathering. So
awesome.
I have a feeling, I think I know why.
Tell me.
I know why. Well, because our topic tonight is something that I think all of us in this room or in this platform can relate to, because tonight we're going to talk about what makes a nerd. Growing up, the term nerd had both well, there was a time, at least when I was growing up, that my understanding of the term was sort of, it had a bit of a negative connotation. But as time has gone on, and as I've learned more about, the term itself and what it's intended for, I thought it would be interesting to talk tonight about, what is this term? What does it mean? What are the positive aspects of this term, and just kind of figure out what's out there in terms of people's thoughts on the term and what it means, um, because I think that it's time that we all learn to embrace the fact that there is a bit of nerd in all of us. Susan, your thoughts, would you agree?
Oh, 100%. And I mean, when I was younger, when I was a lot younger, I think um nerd had that negative connotation.
Hmm.
And I mean, I'm looking even at my kids and stuff. They still say, nerd like it's a bad thing. Um, but I was young adult when I embraced my nerdism, my nerdness, my nerdy. I am a nerd. I am nerd.
Your
So
nerdiness.
yeah, nerddom. There you go.
Nerd.
So yeah, so to me, it's never been something that's really negative. It's just kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But
Well, and for myself, I never used it as any sort of negative term for anybody. It was just one of those things where, as as I understood it, it really didn't have, or I think more than anything, I just didn't know what it really was, right?
mhm.
And as time has gone on, and especially in the last couple of years, as I've dived in,
Divided,
as I've
divid.
gotten into gaming,
You divded.
I dived it
Davadov,
into
div,
gaming.
dividide.
um I think I better understand the term. It makes more sense to me. So I want to start, just if we're going to discuss it, let's look up the dictionary definition. This is
Wow.
from the Oxford Dictionary. Noun: a nerd is a person who is extremely enthusiastic and knowledgeable about a particular subject, especially one of specialized or niche interest.
Okay.
And the sentence example they have is: the executive is an unabashed film nerd.
Okay.
And I love that definition. I mean, when you think about terms like enthusiastic and knowledgeable about a particular topic, that can be anything.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you today,
Hmm.
I completely nerded out on crafting with one of my coworkers. And as I realized it, when her eyes started glazing over as I continued to speak. So that's when I was like, you know what? I gotta go. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I sewed her a hat. So she'll forgive me.
Well, so with you though, there are various things that you nerd out about. Is that the term? Nerd
Yes.
out?
I have very nerdy. I have a lot of nerdiness. Uh, various topics.
Yeah.
I think I'm mostly nerdy through and through.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in crafting alone, I mean, I know from knowing you that you are into things like sewing. You're
Hmm.
into things like, I mean, you've done metalwork. I have a literally have a chef's knife in my kitchen that you made.
Yes.
What are some other things just in the crafting realm that you would say you used to beat? I believe.
Bead. Yes. I did a lot with beads. Jewelry making. Um, Sewing, crocheting, knitting, cross stitch, needlepoint. Those are two different things. Um,
And I think the fact that you make that point is a great example of what nerds do, right? We want to make sure people understand this thing that we love.
and I want to say, for me, when I can recognize a nerd when you ask them about whatever niche topic it is, their eyes light up and they just start going. The mouth
Mhm.
just goes. And they, a lot of times towards the end of it, they feel a little self-conscious and they go, sorry, or like, I'll stop. I'll stop talking. And it's
Yeah,
like, no, no, no. I enjoy your enthusiasm and I enjoy hearing what makes you happy.
right,
So
right.
that's something I've experienced personally as a nerd. doing that and also having it done to me. So
Yeah, well, no, and I get it completely because I know that when it comes to myself, there are things that I now understand that I am a nerd about. And Captain Sparkle Pants in the chat, and thank you guys, all of you who are contributing to the conversation in chat. We continue to encourage you to do so because that is the nature of this podcast. It's not just Susan and I; it's all of us. So thank you all
yeah,
so much for sharing your thoughts. In the chat, Captain Sparkle Parts, Sparkle Parts, no,
we
Sparkle
can't.
Pants
Neither one of us are able to talk.
says nerds are also socially awkward. Geeks are knowledgeable and can hang socially. So there's a little bit of a discussion in the chat going on about the difference between nerds and geeks. But this comment about nerds are also socially awkward, I think that there's an accurate, at least to a portion of the population of those who would consider themselves nerds, that is an aspect of some of it. But I find that when I show my confidence most in a socially awkward scenario is if I'm given
Hmm.
the opening to talk about these things I love.
Yep.
Like we always kind of go back, you and I, to our shared experience in roller derby.
Yes.
You as a player, myself as an announcer, you actually dabbled in announcing as well. And I know
Hmm.
when I was in an awkward situation, if I was say at a after party, which were rare for me, I would only open up and really get passionate into a conversation if it was a fellow announcer who came over and hung out with me. So I remember times I'd be in North Texas, and folks like our friend Bud and Cody, they'd come over and chat with me, knowing that I wasn't in a comfortable scenario. And next thing you know, we'd be off and running, talking about announcing stuff, right? And so I think that aspect of social awkwardness is often um, overcome because the nerd in us, with that niche passion, because that's the thing I think nerddom is defined by.
Yeah.
We have a passion about something.
Yeah. Passion. And I think it's almost passionate to a fault. Like, you have people who are nerdy and who will defend their nerddom to the ends of the earth. And if someone has a different idea or experience in that nerddom, it can get heated.
Yeah.
um there's people like even in just the gaming world. I know you've experienced it yourself. Like, there are people who say, in MMOs, like, World of Warcraft is number one. It's the best. It's the original. It's going to be there forever and nothing can ever beat it. And then there's people who are more casual who are like, you know what, Elder Scrolls Online is great for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's great. It's the best game ever. And they start arguing about it. Well, you wouldn't have this one without that one. And it's like, okay, whoa, I'm just
Just want to enjoy the game.
yeah, let me play.
But that they know
Um,
the history is such a sign of their nerding out about this particular topic, whatever it may be. In
yeah,
your opinion, Susan, how long does it take before you can officially be classified as a nerd about something?
I don't think there is a time frame.
Okay.
Um, I and honestly, like, I don't think there's like a threshold of knowledge either. In my opinion, like, a nerd is someone who okay, let me backtrack for a second. I feel like a lot of what we consider nerds and or geeks, etc., are maybe a little bit like neurodivergent. So the hyper focus, like the ADD hyper focus, for me, that's when you cross over the line to nerd. Is
Mhm.
when you cannot think of anything except for this one thing, and you have to learn about it. You have to try it. You have to do it. Like, you have to find people who do it and talk to them. Like, when it becomes your almost your identity for at least a little while,
Right.
that to me is when you are officially considered a nerd. In my like, there's yeah, it's not
It
levels.
Is it possible to be a nerd about too many things? Because, like, I'll give you an example of why I'm asking the question. Many of you know, those of you who are with us tonight know that I have so many different things that I dabble in. Podcasting, cooking, um, announcing, travel, food, uh, and so at what point? Because again, it's about having, as the definition said, um, and I'm going to make sure I pull up the one I started with.
Okay.
extremely enthusiastic and knowledgeable about a particular subject. So, is there a threshold where it becomes maybe not a nerd, but a dabbler?
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the beauty of nerdism, nerdity, is that you don't there's no limit
Yeah.
to you can love and be passionate about everything. Like
Movies.
you and me, we're both examples of that because like ask me about medical stuff, ask me about crafting stuff, ask me
Yeah.
about cooking and traveling. Like it's the same thing. So
Yeah. I can tell you straight up that I didn't understand the nerd lifestyle, if I can call it that, until I met our mutual friend Rosiel Prime, Nick Kramer, who I mention often. I mean, I remember, literally meeting him a little over 10 years ago when I started my job that I'm in, and here's a guy, and I think this goes to the definition of nerd in such a positive way. Is here's a guy who, in my life experience to that point, this is 2013. I had zero interest in things related to comic books and video games and so forth. And yet I would sit at lunch listening to this guy who I just met go on and on and on. And you've been with us when we talk to Nick, and you hear the passion in his voice and the absolute, loyalty he has to the things he loves. But I would sit there and I would ask myself, why is it that this doesn't annoy me? Because normally it would, right? If somebody just went on and on and on, but there was just something about his passion that was so contagious. And that's, as I think about this topic and as I was preparing for the show tonight, I thought he's such a perfect example of this because his niche is video games and comic books. And now an extension of that, vinyls, right? He collects vinyls of video game music.
yes.
And it's one of those things where I can listen to him talk about this stuff and go on and on and on about it, and it never gets old because I admire the passion. And I think that's what being a nerd, I think people need to understand that. It is a sign of a passion that you have for something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like that and that's maybe you nailed it on the head and hit the nail on the head. It when someone's really passionate about something, it's contagious. It's hearing about it makes you want to hear more about it, and that kind of like maybe even being a nerd about a certain topic is contagious because in hearing about a bunch of video games over and over and over and over and over again for X number of years, you're a gamer.
Oh yeah, no, I totally credit him.
You wouldn't have been started. You wouldn't have gotten that gamer nerd bug if it hadn't been for a gamer nerd who was so intensely passionate about gaming.
Yeah.
That he passed the bug on to you. So
yeah,
here you are.
And one of the things that I know I've gotten, I knew the bug was in when it was me who went to him and said, "Hey, we should go to the Evo Fighting Championships in Vegas," because every year he would talk about it and he would show me videos from that year's competition. And I just went one year. I was finally said, "Dude, like we have to go experience it live." And he said to me, he goes, "You don't play games." And I'm like, "I don't know. I have to experience this thing you love." And man, I tell you what, it was eye-opening. And that was this was 2020, I think. That is literally when I bought my first 3 video games, was as a result of that event, and the rest is history. And so
it was 2019. No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was 2019 because 2020 we all went to PAX together.
Oh, that's right.
And you had already gone,
which I would never have done.
Hey, and you went.
Yeah, and so and PAX was another event that really opened my eyes to the notion of what gaming was and how many different genres of gaming. And again, it's awesome to see that this term, because not every dictionary has a positive definition. Like I'll bring up an example. Cambridge Dictionary Online defines a nerd as a person who lacks social skills, especially someone interested in technical things. I find that definition offensive because it's a judgment on the person, not on the passion, you know? And so if I may, Susan, I'd like to share with you what I found to be the best definition of nerd on the internet. Ready?
Yeah.
You're probably not going to be surprised to find out that this is from Urban Dictionary.
Not surprised.
And Urban Dictionary defines a nerd as the following. Now,
Oh.
it's going to take a moment, so just hear me out. Okay.
Okay.
Urban Dictionary. A nerd is an individual who enjoys learning, does not adhere to social norms. And then there's a big pause break, and it says a nerd is not someone who wears suspenders, fake glasses, and bow ties on Nerd Day. Someone who thinks of themselves as a nerd. And then it goes on to say, if you're reading this article to determine whether you are a nerd or not, you're not. Nerds do not need to look up the definition of nerd. It's a label with no consequences whatsoever. And nerds have better things to do than play along with societal stereotypes. That being said, if you merely want to see what people think of when they think of the word nerd, because human thought processes, societal constructs, and philosophy are so interesting, consider yourself a nerd. So
that did go on for a little bit. I'm just saying.
But I think if it's something for me, if I sum up that statement, it's nerds know nerds, you know?
Yeah.
And we recognize that it's not a bad thing.
Yeah. And even with all the, I don't know, I guess rivalries between nerddoms, you know, we still can respect the other people's passion too.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Because I think we recognize that sort of borderline obsession on something, but in a way that is about wanting to share it with other people and wanting to show people what we're passionate about.
Yeah.
I'm curious, those of you in the chat, and again, thank you for joining us. If you would start to list in the chat, what are the things that you consider yourself a nerd about? And it can be multiple things. You know, for myself, like I said, if I nerd out about things and I had to say narrow it down to 3, Susan, which I know is impossible for both of us, but if I had to, it would be gaming, cooking, and what am I going to make the third one? Because there's so many. Travel. Yeah, that's those are my 3 big ones right now. What about you?
Video games, crafting, my work, for lack of a better thing to say, because I love what I do and I'm kind of borderline obsessed with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my knowledge of that. Yeah. If work didn't count, then I would probably say video games, crafting, and cooking.
Yeah, and work counts. You know, I love teaching. That's been a big part of my career. Let's see. Here are some folks that are sharing. Rihanna comes in with 3. They include cars, video games. She also includes cooking and dogs. I knew I liked her for a reason. Janine, One Punch Dough, bread, food in general, and gaming. That's awesome.
Gosh.
Our friend Red Death, music, games. You're gonna have to define for me what. Oh, Warhammer 40,000. Yeah, I knew that. Okay. Yes.
Look at you, you nerd.
MTG. What am I missing
Magic
here?
the Gathering.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, I've played that. That's really,
you did one time.
I could not nerd on that. Manga and anime. I'm kidding. It's anime. I know that. Let's see. Do any of these? I mean, the ones that have come up. I mean, so from this list, for example, Susan, are any of these yours as well?
I mean, I used to really geek out or nerd out hard on Magic when I was younger. We had a whole group of people at school who would like bring our cards and play at lunchtime.
Yeah.
And then one of the assistant principals is a really big jerk and didn't like 1 or 2 of the people in our group. Went looking through the cards to try to find a reason to not let us play because it was, you know, evil.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Well, our friend Drew comes in with smoking meats, computers, and woodworking. I don't know that would be those would be like your first thoughts to some people about. Well, can you be a nerd about that? Of course you can. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
You can nerd out about whatever. And when it comes to woodworking, one of these days, Drew's going to have to show you. He does many things, I'm sure, but he crafts like he hand makes pens, which I know you like. You have a thing about pens. Like
Can I
wood.
tell you? Oh, well, sorry, a horror story. I found the perfect pen. It was amazing. It was very inexpensive, relatively speaking, on Amazon.
So you
And
nerd out about pens.
yesterday,
You
I
bought it.
lent it to someone
Oh
and they
no.
stole it and they haven't brought it back. And I tracked them down. I went to the other operating room. I tracked them down. And he said, "Oh, I left it where we were." And I was like, "Okay." So I
Did you
ran
find
back
it?
over to where we were. No, it's gone. It's
Oh
long gone.
no.
So I'm gonna cry
Well, talk
tomorrow.
to Drew. I'm sure he can remedy that. Let's see. Who else do we have? Captain Sparkle Pants, gaming, motorcycles. Oh gosh, he says women. All right. Well, there we go.
Wow. He sits there giggling in his chair.
Sergio, remember to read all of it before you bring it up on screen. Oh, and here's Rena with the perfect reaction. Facepalm.
Yep. He likes them women.
But yeah, well, before things get awkward. No, I mean that's the thing. I love that folks put so many different things on the list because that I think is the essence of nerdity, as you called it earlier.
Nerdidity.
Nerdness.
Nerd.
Is it can be so many things. I love Jenny keeps correcting me. Nerddom.
Yeah, she's a nerd
Oh,
about
man.
words.
That's right. Probably
go.
so. Probably so.
It's not a bad thing.
But I think also being a nerd creates in us anticipation for things. Like if we're gaming nerds, then we are going to be anticipating particular games. I mean, you saw me geek out so long, a few weeks ago over Jedi Survivor,
Mm-hmm.
which the nerd in me kept playing until it was done, and 51 hours later, over the span of less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Which for me is fast. So,
Well,
um,
and also, how many hours have you sunk into New World?
522.
There you go.
So there you go. And that's the other thing is we know the details behind what we do. Sergio vanished for 2 weeks. Yes, I did. I really did.
Pretty much, yeah.
But yeah, it gives us things to anticipate. So some things you're looking forward to, something that things that you're passionate about, Susan. That stuff is coming up and you're looking forward to. Is there anything that you can think of?
You put me on the spot. I mean, off the top of my head, not really, because I have been so singularly focused with stuff at work in the last couple of weeks. I was ecstatic, like when the new Legend of Zelda: The Tears of the Kingdom came out.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I bought it on first day that it came out. I was so looking forward to it, and then stuff got crazy, and I haven't been able to play it as much as I would have liked.
Yeah.
But I mean, things I'm looking forward to, in a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so, I get to meet with my manager and elect the specialty in which I am going to forge my career.
Nice.
And I'm so excited. I already have my answer. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I've been sort of Star Wars immersed. I'm about to start playing Star Wars: The Old Republic. An article came across my path, and I was like, "What?" And so I looked up the game. Turns out I had it. So I'm like, "Let's do this." I literally had a whole conversation with Nick, and I was like, "All right, I'm going to say a title. You tell me." And he's like, "It's still around?" So, and we both looked into it, and sure enough, he's like, "Yeah, man." He sent me a video, of course, and I watched it, and I was like, "Yeah, dude, I'm looking forward to playing this." But yeah, I haven't started yet, but I need to. I'm thinking of going down the dark path and going to Sith.
Do it.
But Yeah, it's discovering things. In the chat, Rihanna mentions Diablo 4. That's a big one for a lot of people here recently. Our friend Mello was anticipating the game release. In fact, I
Yes.
think he played the early beta, and now I know these terms, and now he's playing the
Nerd.
game. So yeah, it's I love this. We're in the middle of the discussion, and we can always rely on Captain Sparkle Pants to
Nerd.
nerds. Um, but yeah, so it's kind of cool that we have this opportunity to now see this, and maybe it has been longer than I realized, but I think it's a turn to embrace. I think it's something that we need to be comfortable with, because as was said earlier, Jenny mentioned that Jai said that everybody's a nerd about something, and I believe that. I
Everybody's
really
a nerd
believe
about
that.
something. Absolutely. I think, yeah, can't beat that.
You think? Go ahead.
I think it is, and I think that's completely true. Like, even people who are low, what's the word? They're low key. I can't think of the right word. That's not the right word, but like they're just kind of chill, and they don't seem to get really excited or thrilled about anything. They're just kind of even keel. But like, you dig hard enough, and you'll find something that they will just bloom about.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. One of the things for myself, I know that I look forward to continuing to be a nerd about is gaming. That really has become a huge passion of mine, and it's I think I've spent enough time now where I feel, and I don't know if this will make sense, but I feel like I've invested enough time now to where I've improved. You remember discussions I would have with you guys about I'm not left hand dexterous,
Yes.
and yet here I am with a purely left hand keyboard playing keyboard mouse, as my main play style. Which means, oh yeah, my left hand has gotten a whole lot better than it had been. And so as time goes on and you find yourself improving at things, I think that sense of nerding out about something becomes even greater, because it does become ingrained in you that it's possible, that you're able to. And I think that's definitely a part of it.
100%. I think, yeah, I think having the right kind of people in your life that are encouraging and will push you makes it a lot, I want to say easier, but like makes it much easier of a transition, I guess, into nerddom. Because if you go into it and you're trying to info dump on someone about anything, and immediately they're just like,
that can
here
be
we go
discouraging.
again. That's extremely discouraging. And then not only do I not want to share with you my passion, but it kind of makes me want to withdraw from it. Like, ooh, okay, maybe this isn't a good thing to be excited about.
And that brings up an interesting question, because I wonder, and again, for those in the chat as well, have there been things that you nerd out about that you haven't shared with people or hesitated to? And if I may, Susan, I'll give an example. Jen, right?
Yeah.
My wife is the least interested person in when it comes to video games and such.
Yes.
And one of the things that I initially hesitated to share with her was like, hey, I've gotten a lot better at this, and I'm enjoying this new thing in my life that I'm doing. And it was so cool when, number one, when Jedi Survivor came out, she gifted it to me. Like, she's like, okay, this is your birthday gift. But not only that, when she would see that I was playing, she would come over and she's like, so how's it going? And I'm like, well, let me tell you about these powers I have. And she would be genuinely interested when normally it wouldn't be something. So I think we have to have somebody who encourages that in us. That,
absolutely,
as opposed to what you were describing, where we sometimes get into a place where you start talking to somebody about it and you realize this is not getting through.
Yeah. No. So I think, was the original question like, has there been a time that we haven't,
right,
where
you've hesitated to share?
Oh yeah, 100%, thousand times over. Medical stuff and my nursing stuff is absolutely undeniably fascinating to me.
Hmm.
And I know that I had at least one friend who had no knowledge or very little knowledge of medical and biology and type of stuff. And when I would start talking, they would literally pick up their phone and be like, "Yeah."
Oh, it's the worst.
And so it would just kind of like, "Oh, okay, well, never mind then."
Yeah.
And to the point where I stopped sharing it with a lot of people. Um, and I've been told before, like, "Hey, I I I get that you're really excited about this, but now is not the time to nerd out about it." That's been told to me before.
Wow.
But there's also been like, "Hey, I get that you're really excited about this, but I have zero interest in this topic and I have zero desire to learn about it."
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And I guess if we give them any sort of credit, it's at least they're honest. But give me a moment, man. Like, you know, because
yeah,
I like to think that people's passions can be contagious and hopefully encouraging to others, to
absolutely.
pursue those things. I just, I love, and it's funny because you talk to Nick now, and to Nick, it's like I'm his Frankenstein monster. Like he's so proud of his creation because he did so much energy into me about encouraging me and getting me to try. But he was never, um, overt is not the word because he was definitely overt, but he was never pushy, right?
Yeah.
I think he like water on a rock. He just knew eventually something would happen. And now, I'll tell him something or I'll be talking about him and I'll be using lingo and stuff, and he's like, "I'm so happy." He just gets so proud. So it's a lot of fun.
He's like, "I love you so
Yeah,
much."
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm over here like a marionette. I'm like, so anyway.
Well, I mean, but for your own credit, like you are the one that took it up and ran with it because you spend, I mean, hours playing this game and you learned about it on your own. He wasn't pushing you.
Right, right.
So, I'm just saying.
That is the beauty of allowing your nerd to come out. Rastafunk Jr. is in the house. You know what I miss?
Hmm.
Completely total random. And I need to become more a nerd again about this. I miss streaming. My hope is to be back to streaming here very soon. And you know what? One of the biggest reasons is, and I'm not just saying this because he just popped into the room. I miss hearing the Pirates of the Caribbean
Pirates of the
theme come
Caribbean.
on when Rasta comes into my stream. So
Yeah.
very soon, very soon, very soon. So all right, well there you go. Gee Wilkers, we're all
I have
nerds.
yeah, I have an interesting or a question type of thing.
Yeah.
Um so have you ever had this happen where you are just launching into your explanation or your info dump about your nerddom and you get interrupted and then there's never a good time to go back to info dumping? That happened to me very recently, in fact. But like, so I think we were out to eat or something, and I was talking about it, and the waiter came to like give us the check, and so we both kind of stopped and paid attention to the individual that was here,
Yeah.
and then they kind of had a little conversation going, and then it was gathering up our items and leaving, and then it's like, okay, so do I keep info dumping when we get to the car, or is that like that time that ship has sailed? Do you know what I mean? Like, has
Oh
that
no,
has that ever happened to
absolutely.
you?
And sadly, I've had it happen to me, but I've also accidentally done it to people. Like my biggest flaw, and one of the things that I'm trying to fix is you get excited about something, and I mean the general you, whether it's you or anybody that
I
I speak
definitely,
to,
I definitely.
you're excited about something, you're sharing, and then I'm like, ooh, me too, and I'll start, and it's like, oh no, I've completely taken over, and yeah, so I've done both. I've been affected by it, and I've also unfortunately done it to people. I'm so sorry if I've done it to anybody listening. It's not intentional. I need to fix myself. So
Well, I don't think it's that, and I think that you've got, like, for me anyway, like if something pops up like that, it's like, ooh, I need to say it before I forget about it,
yeah,
before it's gone out of my mind. I'm like, oh crap, I had something to say that related to that, but it's just gone.
Yeah.
So like I understand that, but like what Cullen and I have started to do is because I info dump a lot. Like I always, every day, every single day, there is an info dump about work, especially.
Sure.
And he always says, like, he'll stop me. He's like, wait, before I forget, da 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 da.
Mhm.
Ask me about that when you're done. And
Yeah, I've done
so
that.
I go and finish talking, and then I'm like, okay, now tell me about blah blah blah. Because
Yeah. No, it's a good strategy. It's a very good strategy.
info dump blue balls is a thing.
We have some good advice here from Janine. She says, if it really bugs me or I want to get it out, I just bring it back up and keep going. Yeah, that's yeah. And she also says, and then when 1 a.m. you wake up and remember everything. So
oh yes,
yeah,
yes. Well,
it's
and I'm socially awkward to the point where I can't just go back to it.
got it.
That makes me scared.
I'll bulldoze, and it's I do that because I know that my the chances of me forgetting what my train of thought was, you, Cullen, and others have experienced this firsthand. It's like I need to get it out, or else it's going to be gone. And so, thanks, sleep apnea, but I'm a nerd about my CPAP. So, but but yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool to have something you're passionate. You know what's awesome? When you're with someone and y'all nerd out about the same thing.
Oh yeah.
If it's 2 or more people and that happens, it is the most glorious feeling in the world.
And then everybody is talking over each other, and
yeah,
like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. Have you heard about blah blah? Oh no, I haven't. Tell me about that. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Indeed. I kind of feel like that's what happens in our chat week to week, and I'm gonna say it because I'm shameless about our audience. I love you guys tremendously. I know Susan does as well. You guys have been so faithful to come back week after week, and we love you for it. We have so much fun stuff planned for the next several weeks as we continue this journey on A Few Minutes With. So thank you all very much for the time that you guys spend with us, because it really means a ton. And also want to comment that next week's episode, there will be an episode, is going to be a fun one, because we're actually, Susan, you and I, we're going to preview a little adventure we're going to go on the week after. So next episode, what are we going to preview? Tell them what's coming up.
I don't know. Maybe a little trip to
California. We are taking the show on the road, both shows, not just A Few Minutes With, but also Taste of the Food Life. We're going to be doing some content creation in Southern California. We will be between LA and San Diego.
Yes.
Also very excited because we're going to get an opportunity to actually meet 2 dear streamer friends, streamer family. Yaka Blackbeard and Rarceratops will be we'll finally get to meet them in person and have lunch with them. So I'm excited. What are some of the things you're looking forward to?
Disney.
Of course. Absolutely. Okay. I'm looking forward to Star Wars Land.
Star Wars. You guys want a nerd out?
We're gonna preview instead of next week.
No, I'll nerd out fully next week. But your homework before next week's episode: research Disney bounding.
That's gonna be a good topic.
I'm gonna stop there. We'll talk about it next week in terms of that. Leave that one alone. Disney bounding.
I got these gold shoes I'm thinking about doing something with. So, Janine, that sounds kinky. I love the way she typed it, because she's like, pause. Kinky. It is a cool concept, actually, and
fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. I learned something. But yeah. So next week's show, we'll spend some time previewing what's to come, because we will be doing, fingers crossed, if everything goes well, we'll be doing some broadcasting from the trip. We'll jump on Twitch, do some in real life episodes, and we're just gonna take the shows on the road. So yeah, I'm excited.
I am so excited.
That will be next week's episode, and then 2 weeks after that, when we're back, we'll do a bit of a recap, and then we'll keep plugging on from there. We have some fantastic guests lined up that will be with us over the next several weeks, and yeah, we're just going to keep on trucking. And so again, if it weren't for the audience, Susan, who would we do it for, right?
Yeah, I know. Plus, we'd be talking to each other.
That's boring.
Just kidding. So love you.
Absolutely. Someday we'll talk about New World, and we'll have Cullen on as a guest, so he can tell us about how to grind properly. So, how to fish.
After over a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years of playing, he taught me something new this past week.
Yeah.
So,
hey, I got to cooking level 100 using the strategy you shared. Yeah! And after that, I'm like, no, I want to go kill stuff. So,
well, okay, yeah. Kill stuff and then come back to cooking, and then go kill stuff again, and then come back to cooking
cook some more.
Kick some more. Because if you kill stuff, you get meat, and then you can cook with the meat, and then you can do leather working with the leather.
Oh, goodness gracious! Yeah, I need to get better at that. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, very soon we'll have to get our New World crew on and have some fun talking about that game and other things. So, Susan, as always, thank you. It's always fun, and I'm looking forward to our next episode together. And before we get out of here, I would like to do a TikTok of the week. So, was there a comment I missed?
Yeah.
Let me check back here. Go poach an egg.
No. Correction.
Go poach a egg. There it is.
Egg.
Go poach a egg. Absolutely. I poached the egg. I learned how to poach an egg this past week. Yeah, that was. Oh God, we can talk about so many things.
So many things.
Oh, and by the way, to all those watching, we did commit that one episode a month will be connected to a taste of the food life, so we can have a food related episode. So to all of you who are watching, I say this, and I mean it. Find us on Twitter. Search Sexy Potato. You see the handles there, Suzer Bruiser. Let us know, what do you want us to talk about? What are some topics that you'd like us to explore? And remember, you're going to be part of the process by chatting with us in the chat. So don't be shy about letting us know what you'd like us to talk about, topics that you'd like us to explore, and we're happy to do so. In addition, don't forget that the value you bring to our chat is beyond, and we just love it so much. So thank you all again for that. You're going to hear me say that a lot because I love you guys. All right, with that, we're gonna continue with the nerd theme as we get ready to get out of here. And do our TikTok of the week. This, I don't know if you're familiar, Susan, with Nerd Forge.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, Nerd Forge. And I wish I had thought to get this creator's name. She's amazing. She just does all kinds of cool nerd stuff, but it's all she binds books and creates awesome like handmade covers and what are those light boxes, and I can't even justify. But she, in this video, she's going to share something that occurred to her that led to one of her more recent creations, and it's pretty amazing. So let's take a look at our TikTok of the week. This is Nerd Forge. Here we go.
6 years ago, I lost my little finger in a table saw accident. So I thought, time to make a new one. I wanted to make a finger that could actually bend with lights built into it, ET style. So I started by making a prototype using a 3D printer and some tiny construction pieces. This is actually much easier than it looks. The 3D files are available online for free. Now, this worked pretty well, but it didn't fit my hand perfectly because I had very small fingers. And also, it looked kind of boring. In version 2, the finger fit a lot better. I attached it to a glove, but the bending still wasn't perfect and the looks are a bit off. At this point, I was ready to make the final version. I managed to print a very...
Oh.
It froze.
Oh, it froze. What the heck? This would happen. Well. Goodness gracious. And now it won't start. She made a finger. So Oh man, it was all going so well.
Yeah, there's been some technical difficulties tonight for sure.
Yeah, one that happened off air. Yeah, when my entire computer just let me see if I can. Y'all give me a sec. We're gonna make this happen. I don't believe in giving up. So
No,
give
never
me a
give up.
second. All right, here we go. We're gonna try this again. Maybe not. Well, here we go. I got it. I made it work. All right, here we go. I'm going to try to pick up right about where we left off.
A bit off. At this point, I was ready to make the final version. I managed to print a very good fit and tighten the string just enough to make it bend right where I wanted to. Now it was time to include an LED light, and then in the end, I painted it in a chrome metal color to make it look really cool and cyberpunky. And that's it! Here's my new finger!
So yeah, Nerdforge does some really cool stuff. And yeah, and so yeah, check her out on TikTok. She and her partner do amazing work, but as well, you can find her on Facebook. Find them on Facebook and follow them, and really cool stuff. So
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
indeed, what are you looking forward to this weekend, Susan, as we prepare to get out of here?
Well, I'm gonna sew
Nice.
a lot. I got new
You're
fabric.
making.
I'm making.
That was
Scrub
the opening
caps.
for you. There you go.
Okay, sorry. I was like, what? What are we? What? Where are we going with this? I'm making scrub caps for my fellow nurses. Right now, we're running through some prototypes as I fine tune the pattern and technique. And I'm teaching my daughter to sew as well, so that she
Nice.
can hopefully set up an Etsy shop and sell scrub caps like the nurse caps for $10 a piece, so she can raise money to go to Germany with her school next summer.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, let us know when all that is up, and
Yeah.
I would love to support that. So, all right. Well, on behalf of Susan and myself, don't forget, follow us on Twitter at Surge Sexy Potato at Susan Bruiser. We thank you so much for being part of this experience. We look forward to seeing you again next week. And most important of all, don't you ever forget, and we mean it when we say this, you are awesome, you're amazing, and the world's a better place because you are in it. We'll see you next week on A Few Minutes With.